Welcome to the show No Instructions, where we meet with founders and interview them about starting and growing their businesses. I'm your host, Chad Ingram, 3-time founder and CEO at Distro. Distro is a platform to help businesses build teams by breaking down borders around the world. Let's go ahead and get started with today's guest and see how they built their business. Welcome to the show No Instructions. Today we've got Zach here from Mobley, and we're going to hear his story and a little bit about how he got to this point in his life. So we're happy to have you today.
Thanks, Chad. Happy to be here, man.
Yeah, definitely. So as with everybody, we, generally ask, in your kind of story, where does it start?
Ooh, where does my story start? So I am the oldest of 8 kids.
No way.
Oldest of 8, yep. And grew up in Lehi. Back when it was actually a farming community, Lehi, Utah. I think there were like 15,000 people in the entire city.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, and now it's the center of all tech in Utah. It's a pretty drastic transformation.
So when you were a kid,
yeah,
where all these like huge rectangular offices are right now, housing all these tech companies, what was there before?
Farmland,
like farms, right?
Or just empty fields. The very first Thanksgiving park buildings, like where UVU's Lehi campuses, those ones.
And put the mic a little closer, just in case we don't hear you.
Those ones were like brand new when I moved to Lehi in 6th grade. Yeah. Everything else, it was just open farmland.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like what kind of farming back, or what did your parents do for a living back then?
So my dad, he's a CPA by trade.
Okay.
He was a controller. He did public accounting for the first, 10 years of his career. Started out at KPMG and then went on the smaller side. We spent some time in Denver and then moved to Utah to be close to some family. And after about a year or two here, he moved to the private sector and became a controller for a contact center company. And so going back to your original question of how my story started, we did not have money. Like we weren't dirt poor, but we were, my dad was fairly white collar controller at a couple 100-person company, but 8 kids, and he's a very passive person. He doesn't fight for what is his.
Do you think like was some of that because he was like, the stereotypical accountant who doesn't want to spend money, or do you feel like it just was he was doing a lot with a little?
Probably both.
Yeah.
He just in the workplace is just not crazy ambitious. Like he's good at what he does, and now he's been the CFO of an energy company, a little propane co-op in Northeast Idaho for 12 years now. But growing up and seeing him just grinding away, it wasn't a 9 to 5, it was more like an 8 to 6.
Yeah.
And us never having money to do like anything cool. Mm-hmm. That combined with me being the oldest child, there's definitely some truth to the oldest child trends that you read online. Just like, screw this, I'm controlling my own destiny. I'm not going to be stuck just punching my ticket every day and barely scraping by. So I always had this little entrepreneurial drive in me. I had no idea what I was going to do with it. I've tried to start a whole bunch of little businesses through the years and never really knew what in the crap I was doing. So the next best thing to do was get into sales. I ended up joining a bootstrap startup right out of school. And
where'd you go to school?
BYU.
Okay, what'd you study?
Russian.
Did you really?
Yeah, I actually, so I served an LDS mission in Russia.
Okay.
And I came home from my mission realizing I have no skills, so I guess I can go be a spy. And I thought I was going to go work for Uncle Sam for a bunch of crazy reasons that all happened like back to back. It ended up not working out.
Well, I also think like a lot of people may not realize that the federal government does a lot of recruiting out of
They do a ton
of recruiting out of BYU, like the FBI in particular, the CIA, particularly around, for those that aren't familiar, BYU being a, predominantly LDS school, there's a lot of, like, you're saying return missionaries that do these 4 languages. It's not every day you find a 21-year-old punk kid that has perfect Russian. Yeah. It's pretty nuts.
That's what I thought I was going to do.
Right.
So I got an offer from NSA, but at the same time, like right as that was happening, I tore my knee apart playing basketball, tore 7 things.
Oh, wow.
I got engaged, a couple of other things, and just had this feeling like, okay, this is not what I'm supposed to do. My wife does not want to move to Maryland, and I just needed money. So I started applying for jobs and stumbled into this sales role at a bootstrap startup.
What did your wife want you to do at that time? Like, you have this path forward where you could go get this steady paycheck, right? And maybe it wasn't a ton, but it was something.
That's actually what she wanted.
Really?
Her dad has just started a lot of businesses and never had a ton of success with it. So she
got it.
For different reasons, grew up in a very similar situation as me, where they could always put food on the table, but not much more.
Yeah.
So she actually wanted stability in her life, but the biggest thing to her was she just wanted to stay here in Utah. She is very close to her family, and they all live Alpine. They all, all of her siblings and her mom are all within a 20-minute drive.
Wow.
And being ripped from that, moving across the country was something that was really, really hard for her to stomach. She was willing to do it. We'll do it. But that combined with just a whole bunch of other crap made me realize, this is not the path I want, but I have no other skills and I need money.
Yeah.
So I found a sales job at this little bootstrap startup, and learned to love it and realize that was my calling.
When was that roughly? What year?
That was 2009.
And you had already graduated
right when I finished up school. Yeah.
Got it. And was it as organized back then? Was it like an SDR type role?
Oh, no.
Was it like a closing role? Or
it was me and the CEO in a room about this size.
Okay.
I didn't know that until I started. I thought it was a bigger company. Literally 2 of us. I was officially the director of client relations, but that meant everything that was customer facing. So I ran sales.
Yeah.
I ran customer success. I ran partnerships. So it was a fintech company. We were building a marketplace for mortgages, things like Priceline for mortgages. You could go on, get a quote for your mortgage without having your information sold as a lead and without having your credit pulled. Like a fully guaranteed quote.
And how did you feel about that? So you start this job, you show up, and there's a half-baked CEO and a half-baked startup, did this stress you out or did it energize you?
Thankfully, being a newlywed with a working wife and having no real expenses, it wasn't that big of a deal. But and I definitely have just an entrepreneur's mindset, so I felt really good about it. There were some stressful things, but it was fun. I loved it. You mentioned Infusionsoft, now Keep. We were one of their very first customers at that company, and I had to learn what a CRM was and what sales engagement was from scratch. There was nobody to coach me on any of that.
Right.
So I figured out everything. I figured out our email drips. I figured out outbound stuff. I like everything from scratch, and that certainly helped.
Could you have learned all of that from a textbook in business school, or is this something that right?
No, it definitely slingshotted me toward success, having to learn the work and know what works and what doesn't from my own firsthand experience.
So this past weekend was a Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
Go Chiefs. So my uncle started a company, and he's mega wealthy, and he has this house on a racetrack just outside of Vegas. And so we went down to Vegas to go do that. And they have these race cars that are called radical race cars.
Yeah.
And they use a Suzuki Hayabusa powered motor on this small, race car with a lot of aero, and there's 2 seats. And so they asked me to give rides to a lot of people that were there for the Super Bowl. And so it was super fun. So I give this ride, this guy I've never met before. He gets in the car, he's all, all suited up in the fire suit and helmet and everything. And I go around and I give him like 4 laps, and I can hear him screaming from inside his helmet. He's having like the best time of his life. And, we're going like 127 miles an hour and then into a corner at 100. And like, it's just really mind blowing to somebody who's never done that.
Yeah.
And so as we're pulling off the track after about 4 laps, for someone else to get in, he opens up his visor and the first thing he says is, "How did you learn to drive like that?" And I said to him, "By doing it."
Yeah, by driving.
By driving.
Yep.
And it's so funny. Like sometimes we like disconnect this thing. You're a startup CEO. Nobody taught you how to do that. Like, how do you do it? By doing it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing for all these people. Like, I think a lot of people have this like fear of, well, I don't know how to do that job, or I need more instruction on how to do it. But the truth is like you just kind of go and play in the sandbox until you figure it out.
Yep.
So that's what it sounds like you were going through.
Yeah. Now to go off of that, I did another startup right after that. One that we both know very well, called Nuvi.
That's right.
Yeah.
I forgot that you worked there.
Yeah, Dave's my brother-in-law.
I did not know that. So the same company that ended up acquiring Nuvi is the company that acquired Jump.
Brickfish, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So did that, and then so here I am like 4 years into the sales career, and I realize I know how to figure a lot of stuff out, but I don't know what it's like to be successful. Yeah.
What does that mean?
Like, I don't know what a well-oiled machine looks like. I don't know what roles, what softwares, what processes exist out there. Cause like I was one of the very first hires at Nuvi, and I was the first hire.
Okay. So that was that was going to be my question, is how many people are at Nuvi?
So there were 6 of us in a room. Yeah. Like it was pre-revenue.
Yeah. Very.
Where I was, a Swiss Army knife of everything, but we had no idea what we were doing either from a startup perspective.
And how are you related to Dave?
Our wives are sisters.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yep.
He was on my podcast as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I listened to that episode.
Ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love Dave. So you get into, how long were you at the one before?
3 years, and then about 1.5 years at Nuvi, and like a bunch of crap happened there. Dave ended up leaving.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. Yeah. So I started looking for a well-oiled machine so I could learn the other side of things, what success actually looks like.
Did you get to revenue at Nuvi? Did you see revenue? So you saw what that started to look like at 2 times, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. But I went and took an AE job at Hireview. And I was there for like 1.5 years. Just honestly, I went there to make money because I was making startup money before, but also because I wanted to know what I didn't know. And that was a great place to learn. There were so many good people. I learned what sales ops was. I learned what SDRs were. I learned Salesforce. I learned all of the things that you should know in a revenue organization, because they were like, I mean, they weren't without warts, but it was a great company.
So back to your, you have children, right?
I've got 5. Yeah.
You have 5 kids?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going for the 8?
We are done. That ship has sailed.
5's enough. How old are they?
My oldest is 13. My youngest is about to turn 5.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you've left diaper stage. That's nice.
I have left diaper stage. Yeah.
We're severely in diaper stage. I've got a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old who's, I guess, she just left diapers, and then a 8-month-old. But okay, so you have small children, I'd imagine, at this point when you go and get this, bigger kid job.
Yeah.
And like, what does your wife think about this? Right? Like, you've been doing sales for this period of time. Like, have you built goodwill, or does she maybe have some doubt in, this startup life, I guess?
Yeah. Still doubts. I mean, today still doubts, but my revenue my money that I was bringing home, my income, it went up over 3 years at Jamini, and then it went up more at Nuvie, and then it went up a lot at HireVue. So he's like, okay, I think I can get down with the sales thing.
Yeah.
And about a year and a half in, I was like, you know what? Like, HireVue was not a big company, but it was big to me. It was like 120 people.
Yeah, it was in a growth stage.
It was definitely growth. I think while I was there, we raised like a Series D. Yeah. And like it was a big company for me.
And roughly what year was that?
That was like 2013-ish, maybe 14.
Yeah.
I was like, I just had this itch to go back to building, especially now that I knew what success could look like, and I wanted to be a part of building something to that rather than a cog in somebody else's machine. So Dave came calling. He and Bubba Page, who has also probably been on your podcast.
Yeah, I was actually just talking to him last night too.
Yeah, me too. So they had started Outro and needed somebody to run sales.
So you were at Outro too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Dude, so many paths crossed.
Yeah, I was their first hire at Outro and had the time of my life. The company ended up failing after about a year and a half, but I grew so much because I had the opportunity to apply everything that I had learned in my previous startups and as an AE at HireVue. Like, okay, I know what this should look like, and it was a great time. I regret nothing. Got asked to come run sales development at Team. They were really tight with us at Outro. Sean talked to me and ended up going to work for Kyle Fraughton, who's now the CEO at Roster.
Do you remember Tom, who worked in product? Oh my goodness. He's one of our customers at another company now. Really great guy. He was at Team for a while too.
I don't think we overlapped.
He was in product.
Yeah. Okay. So when I was there, it was Dal Adamson.
Yeah, Dal's
right. Amazing. Yeah. And then Kyle Jacobson came in to be the head of product.
That's cool.
I don't know anybody else in the product org there. I wasn't at Team for very long.
Yeah.
But I had a blast running sales development. And then one of my reps left and went to Nearmap as an AE. She had the opportunity to go make a lot more money as a full cycle closer. Those opportunities weren't really there at Team.
Yeah.
And they pulled me on over with her, 2.5x my income really quickly. It was like, there was no way I could say no to that.
Yeah.
So went to help build out some predictability on the sales org on the US side at Nearmap. So at the time they were publicly traded on the Australian Stock Exchange, killing it.
Australian company.
Killing it in Australia. I think we owned at the time 25% of our entire TAM in Australia.
Wow.
And then they were just struggling to get the same level of adoption.
Here in Lehigh, or were you
in South Jordan at the time?
Okay.
Yeah, that was South Jordan was the U.S. headquarters. So they needed help with everything outside of enterprise. They were doing well with enterprise, but couldn't figure out like the long tail motion at all. So I was brought in to do that, help them go from 5 to 30 million in revenue over 3 years, and then COVID hit. Yeah. COVID hit. They had some investors that said, you need to cut everything. And who's the most expensive person in an org? Sales leaders.
Yep.
They cut like 5 sales leaders.
Yep. A lot of the, on that same thing is, because that happened really bad in 2020, right? Mm-hmm. And then it sort of recovered, and then we had this scarcity of talent.
Yep.
And then we had a lot of people laid off last year, and still even now.
Yeah.
And, at Distro, we watch that data really closely. But what's interesting is there's the majority of the people getting let go at those companies are G&A, like general administrative people, and sales and marketing.
Yep.
There are some, product and engineering as well, but predominantly the first two.
Yeah.
And so that would make a lot of sense. They cut the team.
I don't agree with letting go of sales and marketing if you're planning on keeping the company running, but they made a decision with the data that they had at the time. I have nothing but good feelings toward that company. They're still very good friends of mine. A lot of people that I hired are still there and have been moving up in the org. It was great. I'm very, very happy for them. But I ended up joining a private equity firm out of Tennessee, and they own like 17.
That's a big pivot.
Yeah,
So
huge.
how do you go from, doing sales at this company in 2020 to now private equity? Was there some sort of connection there, or that was, did you just respond to an ad and it worked out? Like how did that pivot happen?
No, I was headhunted by a recruiter that I had worked with at Nearmap to find talent. And it was an operational role. So it actually wasn't a huge pivot for me, still running sales.
Got it.
But I served kind of as the drop-in sales leader for our portcos. One of the reasons why you sell to private equity is because you're not growing at the scale that you want to. So I would go in and help figure out, okay, how do we get your growth predictable again?
Yeah.
And had a handful of portcos under me at any given time, just running their sales org as their VP of sales. It was a blast.
Well, that was awesome.
I had so much fun. Some of the best people I've worked with in my entire life. But 3 years there, 3 years at Nearmap, made me realize I really want to go out and build something now.
Yeah.
Like I'm making great money, more money than I've ever made in my life, but I'm not fully fulfilled.
How's that conversation go with your family?
It wasn't
to
easy.
Take a pay cut.
It wasn't easy at all. But you have to have a little bit of an ego to be a founder. Like anybody that's purely humble is not going to be a good founder. You have to think highly of yourself and be next level stupid on risk taking. And that's me.
Weird and crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was just kind of over making other people rich. Like I was making good money, but I knew other people were making better money. And like something about private equity that I don't love is it's all purely a numbers game. So, hey, if our plan is to recap and sell the company in a year and a half, we're probably not going to put a bunch into R&D. We're not going to build more cool stuff. And if a competitor comes around and surpasses us, oh well, this is what you have.
Yeah.
Right. I couldn't pay people the same level that like market rates. I mean, we couldn't build to keep up with things. And I'm a builder. I'm an innovator. I felt like a little piece of my soul was dying, even though again, I was super happy about my role, super happy with the people I was working with, but I was not fully fulfilled.
It wasn't going to last.
Yeah. And I learned really early on in my career that when I get that feeling, I know it's time to move on. Like it will happen eventually, might as well lean into it.
Yeah.
And I had been at the same time just thinking about this problem that we're ultimately solving with Mobley, and that'd be a really fun problem to solve. So
tell us what Mobley does at Twitter style.
Okay. Mobley is servicing field and event marketers. It's the biggest line of marketing budget and the least service technologically speaking. We are a universal lead capture, enrichment, and engagement app that allows you to never have to pay to rent a badge scanner ever again.
It's awesome.
I was struggling with that at my two previous companies, going to a lot of events and
why now? Like why?
Yeah.
You're at this company.
Yep.
You're feeling a little dissatisfied. You see the problem.
Yep.
But why now take the risk? Like what changed in you?
I was in a place financially where I could afford the risk.
Okay.
Having 5 kids, they're expensive.
Sure.
But we did do a recap a couple of years ago, and I had a decent sized nest egg from that.
Yeah.
I also had recruited my best friend of 30 years to help vet out this problem with me.
And who's that?
And that's Chris Jenkins. And he, I never had somebody that I fully trusted to go on the journey with me. And he was in a very similar place in his career, and we had complementary talent. And you know what, let's do it methodically, but let's go for it and kind of test the waters.
So you recruit him.
Yeah.
And you tell him about the idea.
Tell him about the idea. He's not fully sold, but he wants to work with me.
That was the question.
Yeah, he doesn't have a sales background. He has a product and engineering background and a little bit of biz dev.
Is he an engineer by trade?
No, product. But he was CTO at Banyan.
Okay.
But a product CTO, not a coder.
Yeah.
So he knows enough to be dangerous, but he also knows how to get things built.
Yeah.
So he's like, listen, man, I would love to build this with you. I'm not sold on the problem being big enough. So why don't we do the product thing and go interview a bunch of people?
Yeah.
So we did. We spent...
How long did you wait to do that?
We did it immediately.
Perfect.
Yeah, we did it immediately. We were both still fully employed.
Who did you go to talk to?
Well, I said, okay, we're solving a problem for field and event marketing. Let's go talk to marketers. Let's go talk to product people. Let's go talk to sales leaders. So we talked to all of them at companies that we thought would be a good fit. I talked to exited founders. I talked to solopreneurs. And I talked to a bunch of marketing and sales leaders.
What'd you learn? Like, what was the pattern you were seeing?
The problem is way bigger than we anticipated.
Was the problem the same problem that you had initially seen?
This is the crazy thing about Mobley, because people talk about pivoting and ideas changing, whatever. Sure. It is like today, Mobley is the exact thing that I visualized 2 years ago.
Interesting.
Like, there's no major changes whatsoever. All we got was validation that the problem is real and it's bigger than I had in my head.
It's cool.
Like, we interviewed 30 companies. 29 of the 30 said, please build this. Like, I will buy it. Please build it. Yeah. So that was enough for us to take the next step, which was, let's just get a prototype built in Figma. So we contracted with some friends of ours to build a prototype. Cost us a few grand, and then we went.
That's smart. It's not a lot. That's great.
Literally just a couple $1,000s. Chris led product on it and just told them what to build. He built the wireframes, and then they built the prototype.
At the time, was it mobile only, or because you probably have a web app today, right?
We actually don't have a web app.
It's all run mobile.
It's all mobile. Yeah. Oh. We're about to launch in the next couple of months a client portal, but no, it's all mobile.
Interesting.
So we spent December of 2022 taking the prototype back to the 30 people that we interviewed and showing it to them. And we had like 4 or 5 people say, all right, I'm ready to sign. We're like, wait, hold up. This is a prototype.
It's like, let me finish.
Yeah. We're not even a company yet, but that was like, there was so much validation. I was like, okay, I gotta do this. Like,
how long did the prototype take?
A month.
That's good.
Yeah.
Not too long.
Yeah, about a month. And that was a part-time effort from us.
Okay, so you get this positive feedback.
Yep.
There could be something here.
Yep.
Are you both still working full-time?
Both working full-time.
Okay, so then what's the conversation after that?
So then Chris and I went to lunch. This was early January of last year, 2023. And I said, dude, we've got to do this. I've got to go do it. I am feeling like complete and utter dissatisfaction with work because I know I could be doing this. Like, nothing that they did.
Yeah.
But I know I could be building this. So I'm actually going to go have a conversation with my boss and kind of just lay it all out.
Hey, Chris is like, no.
No, he was like, let me know how it goes. You're moving way faster than I want to move. But,
yeah.
But you got to do what you got to do.
Okay, so if you were to put a percentage on your like interest and desire to start a company, around this idea, prior to getting feedback versus after getting feedback, like how did that change?
It was originally still pretty high because I am my buyer. Okay. So like I knew I would be a customer.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I was probably like 70% of the way there. After the feedback, I was 100% of the way there, maybe 150%.
Yeah.
I was like, I have to do this. So I left lunch.
Yep.
Had a call with my boss
that day.
That like an hour later.
Not like a week later.
Nope. Right then and there. And
hold on. Back to your wife.
Yeah.
What is like? This is crazy.
Biggest mistake I made is not clearly articulating my plan with her. Dude, it's she was pissed.
It matters.
She was pissed. But yeah, I mean, I laid it all out. I said, listen, I don't feel like I'm able to fully contribute here because I want to build, and I feel like I'm being held back.
You're saying this to your boss?
To my boss.
Yeah.
I'm sitting around in a management role when originally I was supposed to be like building and growing and things, and different things happen. I'm not blaming anybody, but I'm just like unsatisfied. And at the same time, like if I can't give my whole self to this, then you're not getting what you're paying for out of me. And
Well, that was nice of you to explain that, because you could have just been like, I quit, dude.
No. I wasn't quitting. Like, I wanted to have that conversation and see, like, am I missing something? Is more coming? Am I going to be happy in the future?
Now, hold on, though. Was the thought in your head, like, before you go and talk to your boss, was the thought, I'm quitting today? Or was the thought like, hey, maybe I got another 6 months while I kind of figure this thing out? Or... Because you have a clickable
It was
prototype.
open. Yeah, it was open. It was open.
So you had to trust your boss.
I had to test it out, and I knew that I could go do it if I wanted to. Funny enough, she's like, I've seen this coming for a couple of months. I can see that you're not happy. I was going to just part ways with you soon anyways, because I know that you're not fully fulfilled, and that sucks, because like we were tight, like brother and sister tight. I love her. Yeah. Like she is one of the humans that I respect more than anything. But I'm like, okay, well, let's just call this an amicable breakup then. And I'm going to go build what I want to build. And,
so you quit.
And then we ended up calling it, and I we gave it like 4 days. The rest of the week.
What's your next phone call?
My wife.
Okay.
And then Chris. Okay. Yeah. Thankfully, yeah. No, I talked to her.
Was that a bad day or was that a good day?
It was a great day.
That's awesome.
In fact, we have our company kickoff next week.
Yeah.
And one of the things we're doing, like all of our team has joined us in the last handful of months.
Yeah.
And we have a looking back session on where we've come from, and I have slides of the various text message conversations from the genesis of the company, with me vetting the idea out to Chris, with the text message of looks like we're doing this.
Yeah, like
all of that. It was one of the most freeing days of my life. I was super sad to leave my team. I love them, but it's like, holy crap, I'm founding a company. I'm doing this.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So Chris says yes. That's some
kind of.
All right.
Kind
what
of.
Did he tell you?
He's like, okay, let's do it. You're way ahead of me. My wife's not in, so I can't do it full time right now, but I can help.
And he's never co-founded a company.
He's never founded a company. He's been big business almost his entire career.
Yeah.
At the time, he was at a publicly traded company running biz dev, but he saw the need. He saw the value. He was very convinced at that point because of all the feedback we were getting. He's like, I'm in. I'll put money in. I'll help with this. It's going to be a while because I need a salary. I'm very comfortable before I can be full time.
And so when did he join full time?
He joined full time in March.
Okay.
So
that's not that long.
It was 2.5 months.
Yeah, great.
And he was half time up until then already. Yeah. But in that time, like we were just cranking.
Okay, so how do you this little founding team? We're talking about you two and probably some.
We had a third co-founder that joined as a CTO. His name's Scott Johnson. Okay. He had recently left TaxBit. He went to join a bigger company and had immediate buyer's remorse. Yeah. Like his second day, they told him he had to lay off half his team. Yeah. He's like, screw this. Like I'm not coming in to be the bad guy.
In 2022. Yeah. Bitcoin came down.
So we ended up asking if he would want to be our CTO, and he lasted like 8 weeks. He was great, and we had a great relationship with him. Was he a startup
guy though, like an early stage startup guy?
He thought he was.
Okay.
And he still might be. I love the guy.
Is he not on the team now?
He's not. Okay. We're very close still.
Yeah.
But they had some medical issues, he and his wife. And he needed to go get a steady, low stress job with benefits, and just couldn't stomach the stress.
Dude, it's not for everybody. I was just talking about that with somebody yesterday. It is freaking stressful. Like
so stressful.
I feel like if you choose a full length like life cycle startup, you're like losing years off your life. Like,
well, you and I were talking 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, something like that.
I had 4 panic attacks in about 10 days.
I think you told me that.
I've had 3 panic attacks in my life leading up to that, and then we can get into that depending on how much time you have. But
no, I think we have time.
Yeah,
we want to hear about your shit show. No, it's I mean, just yesterday, it's. Like, even yesterday, I didn't have any particular reason to feel super crappy. Yeah. Yesterday was a weird day for me.
Yeah.
And I woke up this morning, I did a cold plunge this morning. I was like, today's going to be a good day, you know? And it's just kind of, it just comes and goes. It's weird because you could, objectively be having a good day, and sometimes the sky
There's
is
so much
falling.
stress, man. That just totally just throws you off center.
So how do you pay for this thing? Now you're going to start this thing. Obviously it's going to require some money. You're going to have to hire some people. You ended up hiring people in 22 and 20, or sorry, in 23 last year.
We incorporated January 9th of 23.
Okay.
And I was full-time from day one. Scott was full-time like a week later, and then Chris 2.5 months later.
How do you go full-time? You got 5 kids.
Nest egg. We like that exit.
Yep.
It was nice. I also decided, what's better than starting one company? Why don't I start another? So my little brother, who's very entrepreneurial as well, he and I started a bounce house rental company on the side. Minimal investment. We're planning on it being very passive. It's very hard to find physical manual labor that's reliable. So it turned into a very busy job, and we ended up selling the company a couple months ago. Cool. But that gave me a few $1,000s a month in
the beginning
income.
It was helpful, right? Like
very helpful, and it kept me busy. It kept my mind in shape.
So this is interesting because a lot of people think that you have to go cold turkey on your job, which you kind of did.
I totally did.
You only
I actually am pretty hard believer in that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, but your situation's different. Like you had some cash.
I did.
Right.
And I would not have been able to do that being married with 5 kids.
Right. Yeah. Like no way. But, when you look at like this other little like rental business, like that's part of the Mobley story.
Yeah,
because,
I would agree.
Like, in order for you to do what you needed to do and pay some bills and stuff, like
get up at 6 a.m. and set up a 400-pound bounce house for some rich family's birthday party. Yeah,
while
absolutely.
Building a startup.
Yep, while building a startup, kept me physically strong, mentally awake. All the Boy Scout stuff.
Yeah, totally. It's good for you, and it's good for your brain to stay busy. But the other thing is that in the first like 6 to 12 months of starting this thing, you couldn't find 40 hours if you tried. Mm-hmm. Like in the first months, you don't have as many customers. There's not as many prospects yet. And it's not to say there aren't things to do, but it's hard to find full-time work,
especially if you're not a coder.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, coders can be busy all day long.
For sure.
But for me, it's investors. Pre-selling things that we don't have.
Right.
Strategizing on the product and just getting the word out.
So did you guys end up raising some money early along the way? What'd you do?
Yeah, last summer. So about 6-7 months in, we started taking some angel checks.
Okay.
It was cool. So at Utah Tech Week 23, the very first Tech Week, we were like a week after incorporating, and I saw a post from Trent Mono about a pitch competition. Mm-hmm. I'm going to apply to that. So I applied. We had nothing. We barely had a website, right? But I applied, articulated out the vision, and we were picked as a finalist. Yeah. We were among 5 finalists out of 120 applicants for a $100,000 pitch competition.
That's awesome.
I'm like, holy crap, I guess this is real now. Didn't end up winning. There were some other great companies in there. Nonsense, Tyler Slater.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Yeah, it was great. But like AJ from Wander pitched, Matt Riley pitched, Stanza, fantastic people. I love Matt. He's one of my best friends now.
Yeah, that's a great dude.
And then Eduardo at Ponderly. And so we didn't win, but we got a lot of publicity, a lot of VC interest. And we're like, okay, this is definitely, there's something here. Yeah. So we kept going, kept building, kept pitching, and our MVP launched at the end of March, right around the same time that Chris joined full time.
Hold on, that's fast.
Yeah, very fast.
So months, we're talking 3 months.
3 months
or so.
3 months from when we started building it.
Remember that, right? Yep. A lot of founders will find themselves. The problem with building software is if you could dream it, you can do it.
Yep.
And you start building this Frankenstein thing that just becomes so complex. It never ends, right?
Yep.
And so that's super wise for you guys to get to revenue as fast as possible.
Fast as we could.
To build something very narrow and focused.
Yeah, we signed like 4 LOIs in January.
Yep.
Like literally just showing them, this is what it's going to do. Do you want to buy it? Yeah, I'll sign.
Awesome.
And then, we launched the MVP into beta at the end of March and signed our first real customer in April.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. So you got revenue.
Revenue, not a lot.
Yeah.
And we were in beta from the end of March to the beginning of September. And over the course of that, we brought in like $30K worth of annual revenue.
Okay. Were they paying up front or was it monthly?
Up front. We charge everybody up front. Like the biggest we'll do is like quarterly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were getting money in, not a ton, but validation, right? People are willing to pay for this little thing that I thought up. And then we launched out of beta in September. And since then, it's been insane. Like we went from 30K to nearly 300K in like 4.5 months.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And how many employees do you have today?
Now we have 13.
Wow. It's a good chunk of payroll.
9 are full-time.
Yeah.
4 are interns. It's a lot for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when did it become more stressful? You talk about these panic attacks or whatever. Like why was that happening?
So we raised this past summer. We raised like $450,000 of angel money. Mm-hmm. Convoy gave us a check. Peterson gave us a scout check, and then like 14 different angels gave us small, tiny checks.
Yeah.
Which is great. And we're like, okay, we can go till January, February. So we need to start like beefing up for an actual seed round, and went through the standard VC circuit. We probably had 95 meetings with VCs. We ended up getting 2 term sheets. So double the rate that most companies do. For every 100, they get 1 term sheet, right?
Yeah.
Got 2 term sheets, ended up going with Peterson Ventures to lead our seed round. And everybody thinks that once you have a strong lead, and Peterson is a very strong lead, that the follow-on just comes super quick, right?
That's been my experience in the past.
Yeah.
But
not
did
for
not
us.
work that way for you.
We got follow-on checks, but they were a lot smaller checks than we were expecting. So firms would tell us, hey, we're at $500,000 checks. And then after going through everything, they'd be like, hey, here's $100,000. Like, cool. I guess I got to get $1,500,000 checks.
It's like 2 or 3 weeks of runway.
Yeah. So I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for them. But it took us another 2 months to fill the round. And
how much did you guys end up raising?
2.5.
Okay.
Yeah, we're announcing it in just over a week.
Awesome.
So we finally filled the round, but in that 2 month span, we did the only thing that I regret doing in building this company. I have a lot of little things. The biggest one was, okay, we signed a term sheet. We need to keep the growth going. So we went out and hired like 5 people. We hired our first 2 sales reps. We hired another coder. We hired a couple more interns. And suddenly we went
Why was that a bad idea?
Because we went from 6 months of runway to 2 months of runway.
Yeah, but the check's coming from the investors, right? Well, it's not a check; it's a warrant.
Yeah. This happen.
This is a first time founders situation.
Things happen.
Let me tell you this: I had a wire of about $5 million coming in at my last startup.
Yeah,
and we were burning about $250 a month at the time.
Oh, wow.
From our first little bit of seed money. And I was ramping into our close.
Okay.
If that wire did not hit, it would have been short like $300,000 or $400,000 for payroll. It hit like a few days before we needed to send payroll.
That's exactly what happened to us. Exactly. So
don't do that.
No, don't do it.
You don't need to do that.
No, Taylor at Peterson, bless that guy's heart dealing with us.
I like Taylor.
I love him. He's joining our board.
Awesome.
He insisted that we do a one-time close and that we need the round filled.
Oh, really? So that put pressure on you.
Correct.
It is easy. I mean,
it's easier on them, and it de-risks things.
Yeah, for sure, it de-risks things, but also it makes it so you're done raising.
I agree.
So you can move on, because if you had done a roll raise, like you'd still be fundraising. And it's kind of a pain. So it's good that he kind of pushed you through the ringer on that.
Yeah. So we ended up kind of doing a little bit of a hybrid of it. But
leave it open for a little bit.
Yeah. Like close the majority of it, leave it open for another 60 days. And then thankfully the remainder of the round came in like a week.
Yeah. But
I was like, crap, if all of these follow-on investors back out, is Peterson going to back out? Are we SOL? Yeah. And I started having panic attacks because I burnt through our entire nest egg and then some, like dipped into my HELOC a lot. Mm-hmm. Like I have everything into this and it will take me years, Chad, to build it back up. Right.
Yep.
And not only that, but now there's a dozen of us on the team whose livelihoods depend on us succeeding.
Families depend on you.
Yes.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh crap. Start thinking about the worst case.
Yeah.
I'm done. Like my wife's going to leave me. Oh, yeah. I'm going to be bankrupt. I'm going to have the shame of a failure on me, all these things. And you know what? It's never as bad as you think it is.
Yeah.
Thankfully, Chris is an amazing co-founder and friend, and Joe, who's our CTO now.
Than you, maybe.
I mean, at times we balance each other out. He's had his moments too, but like, dude, we have a great product that is selling.
Yeah.
Most startups can't say that.
Yeah.
And we have a great lead and we have follow-on money coming in. We will figure it out.
Yeah.
So we've pulled money from our own bank accounts and lent the company money to make things work. And it finally all happened. And like the stress just immediately, like that level of stress went away.
Yeah.
I know it's going to be back, but that level of stress went away. Like we continue to sell, we continue to build and release new stuff. And we ended up with the best possible investors filling out the round that we could have asked for. Yeah. So everything worked out exactly how it should have. And I'm grateful for that stress because I will never make that mistake again when it's even bigger stakes. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you this, just because you're in a stage of startups that like half of our customers are more like growth companies, and then the other half are early stage startups over it's like a seed or pre-seed or series A. Like it's weird. Everybody, and I said I did at my last startup, we raised 10 million and like, everyone says they'll be wise with the money and everyone is not. Like no matter how much like I tried to be financially smart, like it's always like, oh, we need better person. Like, all right, give them the raise.
You're a founder. You're optimistic.
Yeah. Too. And you are optimistic, right? Like you're built that way. And you know, or okay, a little bit more ad spend, or that event. All right, 25 grand seems like a lot. Let's just do it. You know, and you kind of start doing that, and that like loss of some discipline, bites you in the ass later. And so anyway, I'm seeing these startups that like, you know, have these huge regrets as they're you know, not as clear on their path to raising more capital later.
Yeah.
So it's like, while you've got it, keep your head clear, you know, it just, everyone says they're going to be good stewards with it. And inevitably we start getting a little looser. Right. And so, you know, just some advice, unsolicited advice from me who has screwed up that before, you know, like I remember our burn profile was supposed to be like 150 to 200. And of course we inched that up to, you know, 350 to 400 later. And it was like, well, we'll raise more money.
Yep.
You know, but like, it's not as like, you know, black and white later.
It's not, especially right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially now. Right. So anyway, there's a lot of good things happening. And I think the good news is like a lot of startups who even are raising capital are being smarter now about where they're spending their money. And, you know, like the days of giving everyone a Traeger and $1,000 gift card to Amazon for Christmas is probably over. Right. But like for years, but like, you know, building a good business is like, you know, in fashion now. So that's important.
I would agree.
Yeah. So what are you doing to manage that stress?
Working out a lot.
Okay.
Cold plunges. Yeah.
Those are good for you.
My wife did get me a cold plunge for our backyard for Christmas. I love it.
Awesome.
Yeah. and just being open and honest with the team. That's one of our core values, is transparent AF. So we don't hide anything. We don't pull punches. Everybody is part of the team. So as long as we can ethically share things, we do. Yeah. And we have cool teams that are as invested as they can possibly be.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So what's next then?
We're taking this to the moon, man. I'm so bullish on the company. We have some really cool customers that are really happy with what we're doing. And I feel like we've built just a killer team around us that can help solidify the product and take the revenue to the next level. So we've got like 4 events that we are exhibiting at over the next couple of months.
Awesome.
And being an event tech company,
I feel like we're just any event.
Yeah.
Like literally any event.
That's the idea for Mobley. Yeah, the idea for Mobley is you don't have to use one-off badge scanners. They suck. They take time to learn. They don't integrate with anything because you're not the customer. The event host is the customer. Yeah. The data is shiz. It's registration data, and people, they put in burner accounts and typos, and you have to pay for it. Like, even if you're using a third-party app, the event's like, well, I want a piece of the pie. You got to pay me for the API for that, and then you just get a spreadsheet, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're like, screw all of that. We're going to be the data provider and build an app as the wrapper. So you can take Mobley to a lunch. You can take Mobley to Dreamforce and everything in between. All you need is a way to capture their name and their company, whether that be with taking a photo of a badge or a business card or just typing it in. And Mobley enriches the data, pushes it right to your CRM in the same format every time so that your follow-up can be kicked off immediately.
Right.
It takes the average company like 11 days for that process to happen because it's so broken and fragmented. It takes us a couple of minutes. Literally take it anywhere. So we've got some cool features coming out. We do have a web app portal for admins that'll be really, really cool. And then just better data quality.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So when that wire came in, like, how did that feel?
It felt like an elephant was off my back. Not a monkey, a freaking elephant. Like, I slept for 10 hours straight, cried a little bit, hugged a lot of people, and then went back to building.
Yeah. Did you take a screenshot? I hope you did. Do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. How did it feel for Chris and, your family?
A lot of validation and congratulations. And yeah, we're just, holy crap, we've done it. Like, we know we're not at the end yet.
Right.
But correct me if I'm wrong, 0.5% of startups actually end up raising money from a VC.
Yeah, it's very little.
So, like, that's a huge milestone that should be celebrated, and like, we should be validating our hunches. Mm-hmm. And now it's time to prove the people that are investing in us right, and prove our customers right, that we can take it to the next level. This is not the end for us. Like we want to be a big deal.
But it's a big milestone.
It's a huge milestone that we're super happy about,
especially right now.
Yeah.
For people.
It is the hardest fundraising environment I've ever seen.
Yeah. I've heard it's a little bit worse than the .com burst, but comparable to that. So, where can people reach you if they have questions?
LinkedIn's easiest. I am super approachable. Like, I literally have my cell phone number there. You can text me, email me, getmobley.com, Zach at getmobley.com. Just connect on LinkedIn. As long as you're a real person. Yeah. And don't use some automation bot. Like, LinkedIn thinks my name is cell phone emoji as my first name. Zach Barney is my last name. So as long as I don't get a message saying, "Hi, cell phone," then I'll read it. Most of the messages I get really are that.
I'm sure.
I love connecting with new people if there's real value. Don't reach out and pitch me with your offshore development or I noticed some inefficiencies in your website, blah, 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 blah. Like, we've got that on lock. But if you really want to connect with me and have a conversation, let's chat. I'm always open.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man. Been fun.
Great.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of No Instructions. Feel free to leave us a rating or review wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe so we can continue producing these podcasts. Today's episode was brought to you by Distro. Distro is a platform to help startups find, hire, and pay employees in over 200 countries. It's free to use. Go to distro.io to set up your free account today.